All right, so welcome to Changing Course Modalities 101. We want to take the time today to talk over some different tips, thoughts, techniques on how to think about structuring your class and just getting ready for the semester. So I'm going to go through some different things. We'll take some time along the way to stop to see if you have questions. If you do, it works best if you put them into the chat. That way we can see them all quickly and answer questions as we can. But as we pause every once in a while, if you have a question and want to jump on, then you may as well. So with that, we will jump into our presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. So we want to take some time today to talk through the situation we are in for the fall and what's going to be happening. And there's some words that have been thrown around a lot that we just want to kind of talk about and talk about some different options with that. As we get started, there's two things I do want to talk about. When you first log into Blackboard, there is a space in the My Organizations area, right in the center of the page, called Level 1 Blackboard Training for Faculty. And this is a place you can go to get more information about Blackboard in general. We've been offering some webinars about different aspects of Blackboard, but also just want to let you know that you have access to this at all times. We've added every single faculty member into here, and I think we've added every single faculty member. If you go there and don't see it, let us know, and we will add you in there. We've been trying to make sure we get everybody there, but if we missed you, we apologize. So that level 1 Blackboard training is always there for you. In addition, just so you know, we've also created a space called Orientation to Blackboard for students at SUNY Oneonta. And that's a space for students to be able to go into and get some experience with Blackboard. So you can always point your students there as well. As you're getting your course ready and you want them to be able to learn a little bit more about something, you can always have them go in there and be able to see things. So we just want to let you know about those two resources right off the bat so that you know that you have those available if you would like. And then we want to take a second to talk about these different terminologies that are going around. There's been a lot of talk about synchronous sessions, synchronous online, asynchronous. And we kind of want to talk about where we think the campus is sitting based off of what we understand. When we say the word synchronous, it means that you're using something like what we're using right now. You have a specific time and date where you are meeting with your students. As has been said already, if you have a class that meets at 1 o'clock, if you're going to do a synchronous session with the whole class, it can only be during your original class time. So for example, I'm teaching a class this fall. It is scheduled to meet at 1 o'clock. So if I'm doing things with my class where they all have to meet at the same time, it can only happen at 1 o'clock on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The other term that gets thrown around is asynchronous. Asynchronous would be things that happen outside of the class online. So things where I might ask them to go post a discussion board, they can do it anytime within a certain time frame. It might be that they have 24 hours to go post something or turn something in. That can happen outside of class, but I can't, with asynchronous things, it's not requiring them to all be there at a specific time, just that they have deadlines where they have to finish things by a certain time. What we have heard a lot is that there's been some confusion over when we say synchronous, that means you have to meet synchronously all the time. Or if you're asynchronous, you have to be asynchronous all the time. And so we are saying this third way, which is combined online, where you are sometimes synchronous and you are sometimes asynchronous. So for example, in my class that meets Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 1, if I'm combined online, it might be that we meet synchronously 1 day a week, and the other 2 days a week I have asynchronous activities that I'm expecting them to do either during the class time when we normally would meet or outside of that as well. So, sorry, Gwen, I was looking at your comment. I'll talk about that in just a second then, yeah. So, so it might be that we meet at a specific, at our class time 1 day a week, and then I have them do other things outside of the class. So it's not that I'm meeting with them synchronously during every single class time. I am choosing which classes I'm going to meet with them synchronously and which ones I am not. So Gwen, thanks. So Gwen put in the chat about there's some confusion about the term real time. When we say in real time, what we mean, and I think what most people mean, is that you are meeting with your students all at the same time where everybody is in together, like we are right now. So this is a meeting in real time where we are all together. Now we're recording this session and we're going to post this afterwards so somebody could come back to it later and they could watch this video, but they wouldn't be in real time at that point. They'd be watching a video of something that happened before. So that's when we say real time, that's what we mean, is that it's happening at this moment where we're interacting, where you're actually able to post a comment in and we're able to answer that. If somebody watched the video afterwards, they couldn't post a question and have it answered. They would just have to watch this. So that when we're saying real time, that's what we mean by it, and I'm pretty sure that's what most people mean by it, but just thanks for the clarification on that. So our understanding is that when you're required to have a synchronous component to your class, it doesn't mean that every single class has to be synchronous, but that you provide synchronous opportunities to your students. So what we've been hearing is this combined online idea is really what is being asked, is that you can have some asynchronous activities, you can have some synchronous activities. Now, some people are saying, I want to have completely synchronous, and that is fine. Some people are saying we're going to have some combination of synchronous and asynchronous, and our understanding that is fine as well. So that's what we wanted to say with that. I did want to go a little further and talk about that combined online idea. And what we would recommend if you're doing combined online is that you set up expectations at the beginning of the class and that you then continue that throughout the semester. So for example, throughout the semester, we're going to meet synchronously on Mondays at 1 o'clock. We'll be doing asynchronous materials for Wednesday and Friday. So one thing would be to set up expectations that are consistent throughout the semester if you're going to do that, no matter what. And the other thing is just be considerate of your students. If your students are in Zoom sessions or team sessions or collaborate sessions all day long, it doesn't mean that you need to meet with your students inside of Teams for that full 50 minutes. Maybe you only meet together synchronously for a little bit and then you ask them to go do something afterwards. Or you say for the first 10 minutes of class, I want you to be doing this, and then we're going to be meeting at 1:30 today. So that they're not having to be in video conferencing sessions the whole time. So just be aware of that when you are scheduling synchronous sessions. Give your students some space. We often have a tendency to do our full times in online sessions, and then all of a sudden you get out of one session, you have to go right into the next one. So try and build in space with those as much as you can. And then once you have your synchronous session, then for the rest of the week, you might do asynchronous things. You could have it where you meet synchronously 2 times a week and only do one asynchronous type of thing. But with the combined online, our thinking is you can pick and choose what works best for you and your students as far as what makes the most sense for when you'll meet synchronously. We just are really recommending that you be really consistent with that so your students know what the expectation is from the beginning and you hold that up. So again, for me personally, I'm thinking about having asynchronous things happen on the beginning of the week. I'm going to post a whole bunch of materials, and then we're going to have a synchronous session on Wednesday and Friday, where Wednesday is review and practice, and Friday is answering questions. And so I'm not going to be presenting material to them in synchronous sessions. We're going to use that time for application and for making sure they're understanding the material correctly. So a couple of questions have popped up in the chat. So Rich had asked for ADA compliance, is there a way to record the live captions? There is not. So, and this goes into actually, Janine, your question as well about which we recommend for meetings. Because so let me get to both those questions. I'm gonna address them and what's about to come up. So here's some tools that we're highlighting to help. One of them is Teams. Teams is what we are in right now, and is what we are recommending for most people to be able to use. So there's a couple reasons for why we're really pushing people to Teams. One, over the summer we we were able to set it up so that a team will automatically be created for every single course for you in the fall. So we will be able to, at the beginning of the semester, we're going to have a team created for you. If you choose to use it, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but it's there for every single course. So your students will automatically be added into it and taken out if they drop, just like in Blackboard. And so you can use that if you would like. Additionally, with Teams, when we record something like we are right now, when the recording is done, it automatically goes to Microsoft Stream, which is their video platform, and it auto captions that video. So you can have auto captions when you are inside of Teams for recordings of Teams. Tim just said there's also live captions that were just added. Let's see if I can turn on. I'm going to turn on the live captions right now for us. Oh, good. So you can turn it on for you for live captions. The way you do that is at the bottom of the screen, there's 3 dots. And inside, if you click on the 3 dots, there's something that says turn on live captions. So you could do that, and I'm not sure if that gets recorded. That's a good question, Rich, that we'll have to find out in the video for today if this comes out. But you have the option for live captions, and then you also have the option for auto captioning it in Microsoft Stream after the fact. I'm going to turn off my live captions now because it's weird to see my words when I'm talking about them, and I feel like I read myself and then I slow down. So I've turned them off for me at the moment, but I believe each individual person can turn them on if they would like. So those are a couple of the reasons we really like Teams. Is it's automatically going to have Teams created for you. You will be able to have it auto captioned inside of Stream if you would like, and there are live captions inside of here. One of the features that Teams does not have really well is breakout groups. Breakout groups is something they're trying to do but have not been able to do yet. They keep promising it, but it hasn't happened yet in Teams. Blackboard Collaborate. Okay, so thanks, Rich. So you tried it and the live captions were not recorded, but the auto captioning function is. So that's nice. So thank you very much. And then Janine, it's at the, when you're hovering over the bottom of the screen, there's the turn your camera on and off. There's the mute button. There's the share screen. And then under the 3 dots, it should be there. And that's interesting that you don't have it then because we're still trying to figure out when things pop up for certain people and don't. So that's, thank you. That's one of the things we're still working through. For Blackboard Collaborate is much better for breakout rooms especially. So if you want to be able to have your students meet together and then go into breakout rooms and work on something, then we recommend using Blackboard Collaborate. So it's really going to be up to you which one you use. What we recommend, again, as always, is be consistent with it once you start something. If you're going to be using one, try and use that one the whole semester. If you are using Blackboard Collaborate, you can download the videos out of there and upload them into Stream. So you could then get the auto captioning from there. But it is that extra step of having to download it first and then upload it that makes it a little bit more challenging. Okay, so inside of, so to get back to this real quick with Teams, we talked about recording it, the options about being able to upload it. You can also share your screen like I'm doing right now. And you can also do some polling inside of here if you would like. So those are some of the features of Office 365 Teams. The other one that we were just talking about was Blackboard Collaborate. And again, a lot of you might be familiar with it since we used it a lot last semester. Again, we're not saying you have to use one or the other. We're saying use the one that makes more sense for you. We just want you to know what the benefits are of each one and be aware of those. So as we said before, Collaborate doesn't have auto captioning inside of it, and it doesn't have the ability to upload it anywhere. The Blackboard system is doesn't have a space to auto caption the videos. So if you want to get that, you have to take it out of Blackboard and put it somewhere else. So again, just be aware of how you want to use the two and choose the one that makes the most sense for you. Okay, so Again, we're using Teams right now. There are a bunch of options inside of here of things you can do. And so just want you to be aware of kind of what those two look like. And it's really up to you which one of those you want to use if you're going to be doing synchronous sessions. Some people also use this last semester, either one of these really, to do lecture capture. So if you wanted to do a lecture and not have anybody else in there, but still have it do what we're doing right now, you could do that. So if you wanted to, you could start a meeting with just yourself in it, start a PowerPoint and share your screen and record that. What's being recorded right now is what I'm presenting to you. I'm talking over it. And so that recording then would be available, then I could share with my students after the fact. So it's a way you could use this both synchronously if you're doing a live events, but you could also use these tools asynchronously if you wanted to record your video and then share it out. There is another tool out there called Screencast-O-Matic that we also recommend. That is good for creating shorter videos. With Screencast-O-Matic, with the free version, you can only do up to 15 minutes of video, and so that's a great way to do that. We had a whole webinar specifically on that, and Tim or Diana, if one of you could share that link, that would be great. But we did a whole webinar just on how to create videos and post them so that you can share them with your students. Just so you know that that's out there and available to you. Okay, some of the other tools that are out there just to be thinking about, and a lot of you might have already used some of these, but again, I just want to make sure you're comfortable and aware of them, is Blackboard has a testing tool where you can create tests. Thanks, Tim. Where you can have it be either questions that are auto-graded, like multiple choice questions or matching questions, or ones that you need to grade, like essay questions. But you can have it where Blackboard houses the test and the students take the test from there. We have an upcoming webinar specifically on that, just on how to create tests in Blackboard, so we're not going to go into that today. But for now, just want you to be aware that that is there, and you can set that up in a lot of different ways. Another tool to be aware of is the assignment tool in Blackboard. The assignment tool is a way you can have students turn something into you, and you can then grade it and give feedback on it, and the students can see that feedback and that grade. We think about it for both for assignments, but also for if you have a complicated test where you want the students to handwrite things, and then there's ways you can have them take a picture of it and upload it into here as well. So what's really nice is Blackboard just over the summer updated the markup system. The one they had before was a little frustrating. Some of you might have used it in the past where it didn't have good ways to write on top of the page. Over the summer, they just updated it. So I really recommend you take a look at that if you're thinking about doing assignments through Blackboard, because it has been updated. Again, we're going to do a whole webinar just on this as well, on how to create assignments and how to grade those assignments and mark it up. So I'm not going to take a lot of time today about it, but just want you to be aware that you can do that. So again, I teach a music class. I want my students to be writing musical notation. So I'm going to have them do that, and then I actually have them scan in what they do and turn it in through Blackboard so that they can do that. So if you have your students writing math equations, if you have them doing drawings at all, if you have them doing anything like that, you can use this tool, as well as if you have them writing a paper or creating a PowerPoint presentation. So you can use this tool to have students turn in a lot of different type of things, and then you'll be able to grade them. And Jada, we'll come back to polling in just a little bit. Okay. The other big tool that's out there inside of Blackboard is the discussion board. And discussion boards are a great place to be able to have you post a question or a topic or a prompt of some type, and then have the students respond to it, and then also be able to respond to others. So there's a lot of great methods out there for setting up so that students can interact with each other in really effective and efficient ways through a Blackboard discussion board. It's not equivalent to an in-class discussion. Our in-class discussions are really great in very specific ways, but it's probably the best replication of that in an online environment. The one benefit I do like here that you don't get in class is you can hold everybody accountable to be a part of the conversation. Versus in a classroom discussion, sometimes you have 3 or 4 people that can dominate it, and unless you know how to control that already, you just have to be aware of that. So here you can have a little bit more control over saying everybody has to be a part of this discussion. And again, we'll be doing an upcoming webinar on this one as well. So if that's something you're interested in, then at the end, we'll show you our schedule and you can be looking for upcoming webinars about that. So those are some of the tools that are out there. Actually, I should add one more slide. In Office 365, there are some additional tools, especially for large file sizes. One of the things we're trying to help everybody be aware of is if you're going to have students turn in something that's really a large file, a big video, or a PowerPoint that has a lot of images in it, or really high definition photos or images, those are the big three that really start to be hard to do inside of Blackboard. The Office 365 space with your teams actually creates a OneDrive space that gives you a huge file storage space. So you can have students post things to there and then link to it in Blackboard or turn it in a different way. But Office 365 is really good if you're having really large files that you want students to do. So again, in my music class at the end of the semester, I want them to record something and be able to play it back. We're going to actually not post those into Blackboard. We're going to post those into Office 365, and then we can have everybody hear them and listen to them without having that space taken up in Blackboard, where Blackboard does not do a good job with really large file sizes. So, just so you know, Office 365 has a lot with it, with the Teams area of that's really going to be useful for you in your classroom. We're actually planning on sending out an update about Office 365 and Teams in the next couple of days to all the faculty, so you can know some of those benefits that you have. That'll be outlined. We're also offering some webinars on that as well. All right, so with that said, we're at that point where everybody's really starting to focus on getting ready for the semester. We just like to remind everybody regularly to take a deep breath. There is a lot of change that's going to be happening even in the next couple of weeks as we get ready for the semester. And just remember that we're all in this together. We in the TLTC are here to help support, but I've been just so impressed with everybody across campus who's been able to say, yes, I'm willing to help out this way and in other ways. So give yourself a little bit of space to say, okay, this worked or this didn't work, and then move on. Especially the first couple of weeks, we're gonna create some plans. We are going to think that we're ready to go, and then something's going to come up that we weren't expecting. So we just want to make sure that you are give yourself some space in that. Be prepared, try and do as much as you can, but also know that we're going to be working together to go through this until we fall into a rhythm of this new semester, which is in a new modality. One of the most important things that we can stress to you is, if you are teaching fully online for your classes, one of the things that's really easy to miss inside of that is how you portray yourself inside of the class. When we are in a classroom with other students, we stand in front of them, we show our persona, we dress certain ways, we present ourselves in certain ways, we talk in certain ways to either help them feel comfortable or not. And we don't get to do that as much in an online space. And so a lot of times we focus so much on the content that we want them to get that we forget to be able to show ourselves inside of that. So it's really important. There's a lot of research around this that shows that your presence in an online course is very important. Students want to know who they are connecting with. And the way to do that is for you to show yourself. So some ways we recommend doing this are, excuse me, I have to sneeze in just a second, I apologize. Some of the ways we recommend doing it are creating a video right at the beginning that introduces the class. And that way they can hear your voice. If you feel comfortable showing yourself on video, then show yourself on the video as well. But if you don't, that's okay. But at least talk through the class with them. How are you going to set it up? What's in Blackboard? What's going to be synchronous? What's going to be asynchronous? How can you, some type of video just to explain the class and let the students hear your voice. If you feel comfortable at the same time, also doing a brief introduction of yourself. We do this in class on the first day when we are introductions, but record a video of yourself saying who you are, maybe some of your interests or why you got into where you are. Whatever it is that you normally do on that first day, a short 5-minute video that they can come back to and watch really helps engage with that. Other ways to do that are regularly allow yourself to, if you're going to be doing videotape sessions where you're recording yourself, be okay with messing up inside of that. We do that in the classroom all the time, but for some reason when we record things, we feel like it has to be perfect. And you don't have to be. Those mess ups that you do and how you correct yourself is part of your presence in a class. Again, we do that all the time in the class where we start to misspeak and we say, oh yeah, I didn't mean to do that. And so we do something different. That's okay to do in your videos as well. So give yourself a little slack. Also, if you try to make perfect videos all the time, you're not going to ever finish a video. So if you're trying to do videos to record for a class, give yourself some space to be able to make some mistakes in there and be okay with it. That is part of your presence of showing how you interact with the students and with the content in your class. So any ways you can think about infusing your presence into your class, showing yourself as much as you can is really important, as the students then know who they're connecting with as they go through this process of learning in your class. One other thing I will say with that is I would also recommend having the students put some presence into the class. So a lot of people do some type of icebreakers on the first day, getting to know you stuff, just even saying names. It's important to do that in an online class too. Have your students introduce themselves. A lot of people create one discussion board that's just around introductions. The nice thing about that in an online space is then students can go back and be like, okay, I remember Chilton somehow, but let me go back and look at his introduction at the beginning of the semester. Oh yeah, he's the one that has a dog named Tilly or whatever, right? So by doing those introductions and you doing an introduction as well and have that all in one space, it allows both them to connect with you a little bit better and with each other, even though we're in this space where they're not physically connected as much. The other thing I will say, when we move online, there's a tendency to say, since I'm online, I can put a lot more material here. And we would really recommend that you don't do that. Still focus on prioritizing what you think is important and make sure that that is what the students really get out of the class. You don't need to put everything into the class just because it's online. Still try to keep it focused on what you're trying to get to at that time and have some type of framework around it so that it's better for students. There's a real easy tendency to put more in there, and then the students feel like there's an expectation on them to do all of that work. And so it feels like there's a lot more work here than there is in a face-to-face class. What's interesting is there's a fine balancing act of, if you're doing things both synchronously and asynchronously, how you work those two together. I would say if you're going to be doing synchronous sessions always, don't add a bunch of asynchronous things on top of that. Think about how you're going to balance the synchronous sessions with the asynchronous sessions so it's equivalent to what they would have done if they were in the classroom with you, not extra. I think sometimes we feel like since we're not with them face-to-face, we need to add more into there. Really try to focus on making sure you prioritize what it is they really need to get out of the class. Now, I am not saying make them do less. I still think you can hold them to the same bar you would have expected before, but just make sure it is the same bar and you're not adding more in so that it becomes higher. So just that, prioritize and think about what it is you really want them to have in the class. This goes back to that teacher presence, but a lot of that has to come back to communicating with your class regularly, and it's really good to set up a schedule for how you're going to do that. Maybe if you're teaching 4 classes in the fall, one class you're going to send out an announcement or an email to them every Monday to say, hey, here's what's going on. Another class you're doing on Tuesday morning, another class Wednesday, and another class Thursday. So that you're always sending something out to one class each week is just saying, hey, here's what you should be focusing on. Here's what you should be doing. And it just helps them know where to be looking in your class. One of the biggest things we heard from the end of last semester is students were just kind of overwhelmed with all the new spaces they had to go to and keeping track of them. That's not going to change in some ways this semester. They're still going to have to go to different classes, and each of you are going to be doing your classes in different ways. But the more you can be sending out regular communications to them, the better off. We would recommend using the announcements tool in Blackboard. It's a really great way where an email gets sent to them, but it also gets posted in Blackboard. So students who are focusing on email a lot more get it, and students who are focusing more just inside of Blackboard get it as well there. So the announcements tool is a great way to be able to do that. And Tim or Diana, if you can put a link into just a how-to for announcements, I would appreciate that. But but the announcements tool is a great way to do it. There are other ways that you can do that. Some people use other apps outside. There's one called Remind that's good about that. There are other ways to do that, but think about what your communication plan is going to be and then do that regularly. Check in with them. We do that in the classroom all the time. So we, when you're in class with them, you're like, hey, remember, you should be focusing on this week. You should be doing this. So it's really good to continue doing that even in our online classes. So Gwen asked a question about, are announcements an okay place to put those mini weekly syllabi? So if you're doing like a little, hey, here's what you're doing for this week, an announcement would be a great place for this. So yes, I would say definitely, Gwen, that makes most sense. And Janet, yes, announcements, there's a checkbox that says send this out automatically as an email. So if you want to, you can check that and it would go to their emails. The short answer to the second part of that about using a student's Gmail address is no. Students can set up their email to be forwarded to a Gmail address, but they would have to do it on their end. That's not something they could do on the Blackboard side. This kind of goes along with what I just said, but really think about the space where you want all those communications to happen. Again, what I like about the announcements place in Blackboard is the students can always go back to that afterwards as well. It prioritizes the most recent announcement at the top. It's like a blog. It pushes things down as they get older. So the newest announcements at the top, and then it kind of moves down as new things come in. But it's a good place to be able to do that because then students can come back to me like, oh yeah, this is what was said this week. If they have one place where they can go to regularly, they can do that. What some people do is actually make the announcements page the entry point into their course. So if you are interested in creating an entry point to your course, you can do that other than the home page is what we call it. So some people like the announcements to be the entry point. And so you can actually do that in Blackboard. And that's through, if you want to know, it's through customization at the bottom left-hand side and then teaching style. And then it says set the entry point to your course. And then if you have the announcements already set up inside of there to be seen, then you could set that as a place that they could go. If you have more questions on that, then we'll talk about how you can reach out to us at the end of this so you can give more information on that if you would like. The other thing that we often recommend is creating a discussion board that's a post your questions here. We do this often in the courses that we show for the best practices, and we call it the virtual office. It is a discussion board where students can go in and ask questions about the class. And then both you as the instructor, but also other students can answer that question for the student. And you only have to answer the question once, and then you can point people to that space. Oh, this was already answered. You want to know more about the syllabus? You had a question about how the syllabus shows the grading. We answer that in the virtual office. Go in there and be able to check it out and see if that answers your question. So that's another way you can communicate regularly, is just have a place where the students can ask you questions that's just opened all the time. And then they can ask the questions, you can answer, other students can, and you only have to answer it once. And it'll just save you a lot of time of those repeated emails of somebody asking you the exact same question for the 20th time. So just a couple of ideas with that, either through announcements, through a virtual office, through something else that you might want to use for that. The other thing that we really recommend is if you're planning on using some technology throughout the semester, that you start off with an assignment for it that is low stakes, that gives the students a chance to practice it. So again, I'll take myself as an example. I have my students, they're going to be writing musical notation. They have to take pictures of that and then turn those pictures into me. We're going to do that. That's how they're going to turn in every single assignment throughout the semester. So the very first week, I'm going to have them just write a couple of notes on a page, take a picture of it, and turn it in, and it's going to be worth 5 points. That gives them a chance to practice doing that before one of the actual homework assignments they have to do that's going to require them to do it that's a lot more points. So we really recommend trying to do whatever you're going to be doing early on in a low stakes version before asking them to do it in a high stakes version. If the first time they have to give a presentation online is for the final presentation where it's worth half the points of your class and it doesn't work, the technology doesn't work, that's an issue. If they've had a chance to practice a couple of times and they're comfortable with the technology, then you can really assess the content that you want to get to when it's time to do that. So think about what are the technology tools you're planning on using, and before you're going to give it as a high stakes thing, give them a couple chances to do it low stakes. So with my class, they're going to have to figure out how, I not give them directions on how to do this, but they have to figure out how to scan in the images. They have to figure out how to upload it into Blackboard. If they don't do it, then I can say, okay, let's figure out what's going on with you, or I can figure out a different way to do it if they don't have a camera on their phone and can't scan it in. So it gives you both the opportunity to figure out an alternative if you need to, or work through some of those kinks before you get to the big presentation or the big project they have to turn in and don't have the ability, or it's a lot higher stakes if it doesn't work. So just be thinking about that as you're doing things, and be prepared to help students who might not be able to do it the way that you are expecting them to be able to. And this goes along with that, but be prepared to have a backup plan. If you can have a backup plan in place beforehand, that's best. But remember that we should be ready to expect that some students are not going to have exactly what we think they should. So just be prepared with a backup plan. If you don't need it, that's great. But if you're expecting everybody to type something in using Word and somebody says, oh, I don't have Word on my computer, well, the backup plan there is actually you have Word online, so we just need to point you in a new direction to get to it. So it could be as simple as something like that, or it could be, oh, you don't have a phone with a camera on it. We need to figure out a different way for you to get a picture of what I need you to get so that you can do what you need to do. So be aware that students might not have everything we expect they do, and just be prepared to come up with a backup plan even if you don't. Let's see, Gwen asked a question about Blackboard grading pages. No, I don't think pages is still part of that. So this would be a backup plan of then showing the student how to save that as either a Word document or a PDF. Those could then be uploaded into Blackboard for grading purposes, where pages is not accepted still. This is a recommendation, and one that we have seen through what we have done. We're not saying you can't do other things, but again, it's just a recommendation. But we have found that if you're going to be doing tests in Blackboard and using the tests, it's from a technology standpoint, it's a lot better to do a lot of smaller stakes tests than one large stakes test. So the main reasons we've seen for that is there are some technical things that are outside of our control, where students are taking tests and they get kicked out in the middle of it. If you have a 100-point test in Blackboard, I'm sorry, a 100-question test in Blackboard, and you want your students to do that, and they get kicked out after the 75th question, there's no way in Blackboard to let that student come back into that test at that point and just finish it out. You can't say just have those 25 questions they haven't answered yet. They have to go back and start the whole test all over again. So just be aware of that. So if you're going to say, I want to have a large stakes test, be aware that you're going to have 1 to 2 students. If you have a class of 30 or more, you're going to have 1 to 2 students that are going to get kicked out, and you need to come up with a backup plan for them. Whether it's allow them to go back in and take the test again, or you have an alternative test that they can take at that point, or if you want to do something else with them. But just be aware that that happens. A lot of it has to do with students accessing tests through Wi-Fi, and their Wi-Fi connection isn't stable, and they get kicked off of their Wi-Fi, and it kicks them out of the test. So again, it's things that are out of our control. We have recommendations that we give out for students. That's part of that student orientation to Blackboard that we have, that says if you're going to be doing a test, sit in a quiet place where you have a secure Wi-Fi connection, where there's not a lot of traffic of new people coming in that could disrupt your Wi-Fi. So we have some recommendations, but we just want you to be aware as well. If you're going to be doing tests in Blackboard, there are some issues that can happen because of that. If you are going to do videos, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, it's really good to create those videos and then store them, host them somewhere else online. So videos shouldn't go directly into Blackboard. If you don't have enough space for videos inside of there. If you post a video to YouTube or to Microsoft Stream, then you can link to them in Blackboard, or there's another thing called embedding where you can actually have it show up in your Blackboard space, but it's not taking up any space in Blackboard. When we're moving to a place where you might be doing a lot of asynchronous videos, where you're going to be posting videos and just asking them to watch them, we want everybody to be really aware of this. So we have, again, we have a great webinar that we already did. Tim already posted a link to it once inside of here, but Tim, if you don't mind posting it one more time, that goes through this whole process of what it looks like to record a video, post it to YouTube or to Stream, and then link to it or embed to it in Blackboard. That's what we really recommend. The other good thing about both YouTube and Stream is they transcribe the video for you, and they're smart in that if a student is watching it from a bad Wi-Fi connection, they'll give them a lower resolution quality of it so they can still see it, but it doesn't freeze up. When you try to do it in Blackboard, it just messes up. There's a lot of issues with that. So we really recommend that you do that. The other thing we really recommend is trying to keep each video that you watch to about 5 to 7 minutes. I know that's not best for everybody, but what this research shows is that if you have videos longer than 5 minutes, students really lose attention and either have to pause it and walk away and come back to it, or just don't listen after that point. So what we recommend is if you're going to have, I want to be able to have a 30-minute lecture. What we recommend doing is figure out where's it good logical breaks and just break it up into smaller chunks. So that instead of being one 30-minute lecture, you're asking them to watch 4 12-minute videos or 4 8-minute videos, 7 to 8 minute videos. And that way they can have shorter sections they can watch and say, okay, I've got this, I can walk away from it and digest that, and then I come back and do the next chunk. So we're not saying shorten the amount of lectures that you do, just shorten the amount, not even shorten, but chunk that into sections so that students can come back to it when they need to. The other benefit is if a student wants to go back and find something from a video, it's a lot easier to go into a 5 to 7 minute video and find something inside of that video than trying to find it in a long 30-minute video, 40-minute video. So just be aware of that when you're doing those. That helps them out a lot. Janet, there are some ways to have students watch a video and answer questions at the same time. We're not going to get into that today, but there's a lot of different ways where you could do that, where you could have them watch a video and just have some questions in Blackboard at the same time, or there's actually ways you can embed some questions into videos. But again, we're not going to talk about that today, but it is possible. Blackboard has a great manual. Most of the time when people ask us questions, the first place we go is to Blackboard's manual to get questions. The way that you have access to that is, I'm going to get out of this for a second and go into just a course. Yeah, it's right here. So in any course that you have in your course shells, there are now 2 links inside of here. One of them is Blackboard help pages. That Blackboard help pages is for students. If you click on this, this is the student version of Blackboard help. It is there and can help students get an idea of how to do things. This is in every course by default, so the students can go there and get help if they need to. In addition, if you scroll down to the very bottom of the page, there's another help area. And when you click on this, there's a Blackboard help for instructors. This is your manual for Blackboard. Any question you have about Blackboard can be answered inside of here if you want to be able to look here. So when you go here, they have at the left-hand side, they have their whole table of contents. They've also got their common issues and popular pages. And they also have a search function at the top where you could search for assignments or discussion boards or anything that you want. But this help area, and again, it's in every course in Blackboard. If you go to the bottom and go to help, Blackboard help for instructors, it's a great feature that is good to be able to have access to whenever you want. Okay, so There's a couple of links here, but we're going to put them into the chat as well. The first link that we will have is, I'm going to get out of here for just a second and actually show it to you. We have a blog that we are now maintaining that we're trying to post as much information to. So a couple things just to highlight here, and I'm going to put this link in the chat right now as we're talking so that you can have access to this. All of our webinars are located right here. So the recording for today's webinar will show up here tomorrow, and we will have this here for you to have access to at any time. So you can come back and get this information again if you would like, or share it with others. But all of our webinars, including the ones that we did this summer, are right here. The one that Tim shared with earlier is this creating, uploading, and sharing videos in Blackboard. And that's the one that goes through all of the steps on how to create videos. This is always going to be here, so you have access to this whenever you want. We have one on effective group work. We have one on getting your students to remember about assignments. And we have one on creating rubrics in Blackboard already. All the additional webinars that we do will be posting here, and we'll be pushing people here a lot to be able to say, here's where you can go to get that information. So just want you to know about that. In addition, at the top of the page, it's called Latest News right now. We need to change that to say something else. But under Latest News, we have tips for remote instruction. We've been asking faculty just to give us, what are their tips? What have they been doing in their class that's working well as we've been teaching remotely? So there's a whole bunch of tips from faculty about what they're doing in their classes that have worked for them. So that's a great resource. And then if you're looking for just some ways to refresh your course, we went through a 6 weeks challenge over the summer of here's how you can do some different things. And so we took 6 weeks, but you could just choose 1 or 2 of these if you wanted to, or however you wanted to go through them to say things from how to create clear course expectations, or creating digital critical and thinking activities, establishing collaborations. We went through a lot of different things to kind of think about how to do that. So that's there as well if you would like. Again, that's all at that link I just shared with you. And this is the one place where we're really going to try and push everything that we have so that you can get to it from one spot. The other link that we will be sharing with you is this is our link to all of the upcoming events that we are hosting. We are trying to have a whole bunch of different options between things like our webinars, where it is us sharing information out to you. We are having sessions called Faculty Focus, where we're asking faculty to come in and share out some of their tips and tricks. As well as we're continuing our teaching breakfast, which is more conversation focused, where we can have some conversations around topics and see what you're struggling with and try and answer some questions. So this link that I just posted is all of the upcoming events. We are having, Microsoft is hosting some things specifically on Teams, and we'll be doing some things with that. And we'll be continuing to have our webinars there. And then, as always, we're posting all of those webinars back to our blog that I shared before, so you can get to those after the fact as well. And with that, I'm going to stop and see what questions you have at this point, or what are you thinking about, or even what are things you would hope to see from us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can come back to a group. And just want to hear if you have questions or thoughts or other things you would like help with that we could help out with. We'd love to hear from you right now. So you can either type things in or jump on if you would like, but we have about 7 or 8 minutes of our time left, so we'd love to hear from you.
So, Chilton?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, so if we were to make a recording, we would do it in Blackboard, and then we could upload it to Streams, and because that's where Streams would give us the captions. Is that
correct?
wrong?
So correct.
Just
So,
click the link in Blackboard.
yes. So if you're going to do, if you're going to do Blackboard Collaborate, what we recommend then is download it, upload it into Stream, and then link to that in Blackboard. Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chilton, this is a really basic question, real basic, but this morning I could not find a place to get into the presentation that was at 10 or 11. I went to the link that you showed me and I had a lot of pictures and a lot of dates, but there was no place that said, here you can get into this course. So what did I miss?
So that's one of the things that we're going to be, actually that's coming out in the Teams trainings, is how to invite all of your students. That one of the benefits of when all of your students are in a team together is it makes it a lot easier. We don't have a team created with every single faculty member in it. That would be a really large team and you'd get bombarded with all sorts of stuff. So when we send out stuff, we send it out a little bit differently than you will for your class. So when you're sending it out for your class, you can easily set something from your calendar and it would just go to that team and then they would have access to it. There's some trainings that are coming up. There's actually one tomorrow afternoon, I believe, that's specifically on team meetings, Janet, that would be worthwhile to look into then to be able to do that.
I'm just saying that I couldn't get into the one this morning. I did not understand. I could not see how to join. Somebody had to send me, I think you sent me a special email after I sent an email asking for help. I see the pictures, I see the icons, you know, I can't see how to join the meeting.
Yeah, and again, that comes back to what link you use to get into it and what you have on your computer. So we can practice with that some more, Janet.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Gwen had two questions. One is Stream limited to SUNY Oneonta? And the answer is yes. Anything that's posted in Microsoft Stream is only accessible to somebody inside of SUNY Oneonta. You have to have a login to see anything there. There's no way to have it shown publicly anywhere. So if you have something you only want your students to see, Stream is a great option for that. We've been posting all of our videos to YouTube because when we want you and other people to have access to those videos without having to log in first. So that's the difference between YouTube, which is public facing, and Stream, which is only for SUNY Oneonta. So thanks for that question, Gwen. The other thing was talking about attendance.
Yeah.
So there's two ways to take attendance, one of which I'm comfortable with right now and one of which just came out and I'm not comfortable to talk about yet. So I started this meeting. So when I go into the participant list, I have an option to download the attendance list. So I can actually download the attendance from here and it comes out as an Excel spreadsheet and it shows me when every single person came into the meeting and when every single person left the meeting. So if somebody came in for only 3 minutes, it would show me, hey, Chilton came in at 1:10 and left at 1:13. If somebody came in for the whole meeting, it would show me, hey, Janet came in at 1 o'clock and stayed here until 2:05. So you can, as the presenter, you can download that. The attendees cannot. So there's some documentation out there on that.
Okay.
That can help out with that.
Thank you.
There is a new tool that just came out in Teams that allows you to take attendance in Teams as well. That just came out and I'm not comfortable talking about it yet, but it is out there. I've seen some documentation on it and we'll be sharing some of that as we become a little bit more fluent in it. So there is that possibility. But it's not something that we have done a lot with yet, and so I don't really want to say a lot about it yet. But that is apparently out there. So that's attendance. If you want to be able to take that, and my understanding of the attendance in Teams, it's more where you can actually say, hey, I can say this person was present, this person was late. You can have a little bit more flexibility over that inside of the Teams area if you're taking attendance there. The other thing that popped up inside of the chat was the idea of polling your students or having your students interact while they're online inside of a meeting like this. There are a couple different ways to do it depending on what you want to do. There is a tool inside of Microsoft Teams called Poly. And if I do a Poly poll, I'm about to do one right now for you. I can create a poll and ask questions. The problem with Poly is that you have to ask those on the fly. You don't get to do them. You can't create the questions in advance. Hold on, I have to type in my password real quick. So if you do that one, then you have to be prepared to do it as you go. Actually, I was talking with somebody earlier this week, who's on the call right now. I won't say who it is, but who was talking about having PowerPoint where you actually create the questions in PowerPoint, but then you just pop open the Poly poll. So you already have the questions created somewhere else, but then you use Poly to have the students answer. So I'm going to create a poll right now. It's a multiple choice question. But as you can hear, I'm having to type it in as I go. And it gives me some options on how I can do this, and then I can send this out to everybody. So you should have the ability to answer a question right now inside of here. There you go. So that's one option for doing it. There are other ones to do that. And I'm not sure, so I'm curious actually, can everybody else see the results or can only I see the results? Can anybody else see the results to this right now, or can you only answer it?
I can see them. It's Gwen. I can see them.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
So this is one option for how to do that. You could actually have your students go right here. So that is one option. There are some other options on doing this, but it gets further down the rabbit hole. So you can create forms and have the students answer a form while they're here. You can put the link to the form inside of here. You could have them do things inside of Blackboard while they're inside of a Teams meeting. But it's one of the things you would want to think through how you'd want to do in a class. And again, we can help talk through that if you would like. But it really is a matter of what you want to do in the class and how you'd want to do that. The one other thing I will say right now, and I'll remind everybody of, it's over here. If you want to request a meeting with us in the TLTC to work over something, we really recommend going through the service desk. If you go to Blackboard, the easiest way to do it is there's the IT service desk link down here at the bottom. If you click on that, then you can click on submit a request. The nice thing about this is it goes to everybody in the TLTC and you'll get your questions answered very quickly. We're trying to get away from people emailing us directly just because, especially right now, with the current situation going on, we are all over the place trying to support people as best we can. But because of that, we're really trying to ask everybody to go through the service desk and just put in a ticket. Then that goes to all of us in the team if it needs to come to us and can help out. If it needs to go to somewhere else in IT, then that can happen as well. But we're really just trying to remind people to go to the service desk. Again, you can do that through that homepage on Blackboard, or I'm going to put the link into the chat as well again, just so you have it. But we really recommend doing that as much as you can.
The link will be helpful, Chilton. Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to stop recording now.